have time to look at that. So right now I will invite Matthew Volz from the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, and on behalf of the Build Kansas Steering Committee, to give us a presentation on the applications that we have today to look at for the Build Kansas Matching Grant Fund. Mr. Volz.
Thank you, Chairman Waymaster, members of the committee. Thanks for having me today to present these projects to you for the Build Kansas Fund. Our agenda today is going to focus on application review and approvals. We have several to look. Pardon?
Microphone on?
Yes.
Closer to you so we can hear.
Okay.
Better.
Is that better? Great. We have several applications to look at today, so we'll get started. With your permission, I'm going to skip the usual preamble I go through to review the Build Kansas Fund process, if you don't mind.
I would prefer that. Thank you.
Okay,
for the sake of time.
All right, so we have, again, we've got build application funds to review, fund applications to review. We'll go through some hub updates if we have time, and also our hub dashboards. We have 7 applications to review today. 2 are airport infrastructure grant applications. 1 is a Water Smart grant, and 3 are BRIC grants, and 1 is a Protect grant, which we reviewed last month, and the committee tabled and had them revise and resubmit that grant. We'll talk about that one here in just a bit. The first project is number 2025-086 for the Rural Water District number 5 in Crawford County. This is a Water Smart Environmental Water Resources Project grant for water system upgrades and water treatment plant improvements in Crawford County. This program does require a 25% non-federal match, and I would note that this program has a due date that is to be determined right now because it is under federal review at this time, so there is no due date on this program that we know of right now. The Build Kansas fund request for this one is $356,250. The local contribution is $18,750, and that is made up of $10,000 in cash and $8,750 in in-kind services, which is staff time. The federal funding to be unlocked is $1,125,000 for a total project cost of $1,500,000. And for a little bit more about this project, this one here is in Crawford County, Rural Water District number 5. This is located just to the east and south of Pittsburgh and serves approximately 800 people and residents and businesses in the area. They'd like to make upgrades to 2 water treatment plants and improve the metering on their control systems at that location. The Rural Water District has done a preliminary analysis to determine their needs and their budget needs for this project. The next step is they need to do detailed design, plans, specifications, and estimates, and then let this project for construction. What they want to do with the money is they want to install SCADA command and control systems on their water system to better manage their water system and monitor their flow and usage, rehabilitate their older north plant, which has seen extensive corrosion over the past 50 years, and then install power backups at each plant for system redundancy in case of power failure. This project was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and recommended for approval, and so we bring this to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, are there any questions for Mr. Volz? All right, seeing none, this will be passed on, even though I guess I do have a question. You said it was paused? The program that they're applying for? The
grant program is paused right now. It's under the federal review right now by the agency that's in charge of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Seeing no questions, we'll go ahead and pass this on. Representative Helgerson.
Did we have a minimum contribution that we were looking for from the locals? Not a percent?
There's an in-kind match of $8,750. Mike's not on. There's an in-kind match with Rural Water District number 5 for $8,750, and then a local contribution of $10,000.
Okay.
Any other further questions? All right. Seeing no concerns, again, this will be passed on to the federal government.
And if I may, that is $18,750, and that is 5% of the local match, which was what we ask of them. We don't require it, but we do ask that, and they did meet our request for 5%.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Volz. You may move on.
All right, our next project is number 2025-087 from the city of Wichita. And this is a promoting resilient operations for transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation, or PROTECT grant for storm sewer reconstruction in central Wichita. This grant program requires a 20% local match. And I would note that this program due date is also to be determined while this program is under federal review. Their Build Kansas Fund request amount is $7,156,200. Their local contribution is $2,385,400, and that is 25% of the local match. The federal funding to be unlocked is $38,166,400 for a total project cost of $47,708,000. And a little more detail on this particular project. If you might recall this one from last month, they plan to do 4 areas in this corridor where they want to do storm sewer upgrades and road reconstruction. The first area, marked as number 1, is in the Emporia Avenue and Wabash Avenue neighborhoods. Then they want to do the same storm sewer and street improvements in the Murdoch Avenue area. Area 3 is where they want to put in some new walls and storm gates along the I-35 drainage canal to prevent backflow. And then area number 4 is more storm sewer and roadway upgrades that will lateral into the Frisco drainage canal that drains into the I-35 drainage canal. The goals of the project, of course, are to mitigate frequent storm sewer backups in the area and flooding, reduce the floodplain size, and allow for more housing to be developed in the area. At the last advisory committee meeting, this application was tabled pending the city providing a greater amount of local match. They had offered $477,080. They've increased that now by 5 times to $2,385,400. This was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and recommended for approval. So we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, any questions in regards to this application? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and I believe you said it's already forwarded on, so we'll move on to the next application.
Thank you. The next project is number 2025-088 for the city of Gardner. This is an airport infrastructure grant for land acquisition and clearing of land to improve the runway safety at the Gardner Municipal Airport. This grant program requires a 5% match and is due May 1st of 2025. Their Build Kansas Fund request is $24,736. Their local contribution of cash is $2,749. That is 10% of the local match. Their federal funding to be unlocked is $522,215 for a total project cost of $549,700. And a little more detail on that project there. The Gardner Municipal Airport is just to the west side of Gardner. It's a public general aviation facility. They have 3 runways there. 2 of them are turf and 1 of them is paved, and they see over 50,000 aircraft operations per year at that airport. This project will see the acquisition of land that is at the south end of their north-south runway and clear this property of trees, outbuildings, and a house there. This will improve the safety of the approach and departure area of their runway. And the benefits, of course, is allow for future improvements and expansion of service to the airport and safety at the airport. This project was reviewed by our steering committee on March 12th and was recommended for approval. So we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, any questions? Seeing none, will be forwarded on by consensus. You may move on to the next one with the city of Hayes.
Thank you. Next project is number 2025-090 for the city of Hayes. This is a Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, or BRIC grant, to develop a water supply infrastructure for Hayes and Russell. This grant program does require a 25% match and is due April 1st of 2025. Their Build Kansas Fund request is $15,833,333. Their local contribution in cash for this portion of the Build Kansas Fund is $833,333. That is 5% of the total match. They also have more local contribution beyond that. As you can see, they have a local contribution of $68,333,334, which is made up of several sources, including revenue from a half-cent sales tax they have for water projects, as well as potential congressionally directed spending, and if needed be, they'll also acquire infrastructure loans to make up the difference. The federal funding to be unlocked, the max they can request is $50 million, and that is what they're requesting for a total project cost of $135 million. And a little bit more about this project. This one is the construction of a 69-mile-long water supply pipeline from Edwards County near Kinsley north to an existing pipeline connection just south of Hayes. The project includes 7 wells, a 500,000-gallon water storage tank, a pump station, and again, 69 miles of 24-inch water pipeline. Ultimately, will tie into the Russell water system with a future project. And I want to explain that a little bit. I would note that this project last year had tied both the Russell and the Hayes project together. Based on the advice they received from FEMA through that non-revenue technical assistance grant they received last year, they decided to split the projects. So this project right now is just for the Hayes portion of the project. But I would note that both cities are still working together, still cooperating. We actually were just out there 3 weeks ago, had a meeting with both Russell and Hayes, and like I said, both are in lockstep and complete agreement on this project. I would note that the area has a really good, strong understanding of water conservation. As you know they have a need to conserve water in order to have sustainable water supplies in the future. They estimate the economic benefit in terms of jobs and reducing water shortages over the next 50 years for this project to be in excess of $200 million for the area. This project was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and was recommended for approval. So we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, thank you, Mr. Volz. Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh my gosh. And thank you for our update on this. I've been following this project for a long time, so I'm excited to see it before us today. I was wondering if they considered any state revolving loan fund money.
I've not heard them, I've not heard them express any interest in SRF loan funds. They've expressed interest in WIFIA loan funds, which would be the federal infrastructure loan funds.
Okay, thank you.
And you said that you were out in Hayes and Russell just recently, and did the city of Russell indicate when they would have their application?
Next year.
Next year, okay.
Yep.
And is that potentially to see how much is generated off the sales tax increase that the city of Russell passed for water needs?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Roughly the split of the project, this amount of the project, 135 million, is about 80% of the project cost. And so if they get this funded, they'll essentially have only 20% left to fund to make that connection over to Russell. And they estimate they're going to need around $25 million to make that connection, that final connection over to Russell.
Okay, all right, thank you. Committee, any other questions? All right, seeing none, this will be passed on, and then we'll move on to the city of Hugoton.
Thank you. The next project is number 2025-092 for the city of Hugoton. I would note that I do have a potential conflict of interest in that their engineer is Garver Engineering. My wife works for Garver Engineering. She has nothing to do with this project, and she's not an airport engineer, but I do want to make that known. This is an airport infrastructure grant for improvements to the runway and the taxiway lighting and signage at the Hugoton Municipal Airport. This grant does require a 10% match and is due September 30th of 2025. Their Build Kansas Fund request is $18,249. Their local contribution is the same, $18,249, so they're supplying 50% of the local match. The federal funding to be unlocked would be $328,482 for a total project cost of $364,980. And for some additional detail on this project, the Hugoton Municipal Airport is a general aviation facility just southwest of Hugoton. It has 2 runways. The primary is a 5,000-foot paved runway, number 2-20, and the secondary is a 3,000-foot paved runway, 13-31, and they see over 10,000 aircraft operations per year. This project will replace some aged taxiway and runway edge lighting, runway signage. The PAPI system, or the Precision Approach Path Indicator system, is going to be replaced. The wind cone will be replaced. They're replacing some electrical vaults, and they're adding runway end identification or identifier lights to both runways. The goals of the project are to improve the overall safety at the airport and continue to support the general aviation business and jobs in aviation at the airport. This project was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and was recommended for approval. So we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, any questions for Mr. Volz? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to the city of Coffeyville.
Thank you. This project is number 2025-094 for the city of Coffeyville. This is another Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, or BRIC grant. This is for the installation of 2 new warning sirens in the city of Coffeyville. This program does require a 25% match and is due April 1st of 2025. Their request to the Build Kansas Fund is $9,053. Their local contribution is $6,035, and that's 40% of the local match. Their federal funding to be unlocked is $45,264 for a total project cost of $60,352. And for some detail on this project will install in the center of Coffeyville 2 new Wheelan Vortex R4 directional rotating warning sirens. They have a higher performance in terms of distance that it can be heard from and volume. The current sirens, and you see on the map, the current sirens are the yellow circles. The new Wheelan sirens are the green circles. The current sirens perform, but terrain, trees, and building are impeding their performance in the most populated areas of town, and they're getting harder to hear. So the goals and benefits of this are obviously increased warning times for residents, more complete coverage for the city, resulting in earlier seeking of shelter and potentially have lives saved. This project was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and recommended for approval, so we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, be forwarded on. And now to the final application on the City of Leavenworth.
Thank you.
Leavenworth Waterworks Board.
The final project is 2025-097 for the Leavenworth Waterworks Board. This is another Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, or BRIC grant. This will be for the installation of a second water treatment train at their self-treatment plant in Leavenworth. This grant program requires a 25% match. It's due April 1st of 2025. Their Build Kansas Fund request is $11,328,750. Their local contribution in cash is $596,250, and that is 5% of the local match. Their federal funding to be unlocked is $35,775,000 for a total project cost of $47,700,000. And for a little more detail on this project, Leavenworth Waterworks serves 55,000 customers in the Leavenworth, Lansing area, as well as some rural water districts in the area. The North Treatment Plant that they have is located between the Fort Leavenworth and the Missouri River, and that one is subject to fluctuating river levels, which impact their input or their intake into that plant. And that problem is only expected to get worse. The South Treatment Plant is served by wells, but only has 1 treatment train, so that one is susceptible to failures and maintenance issues for that 1 treatment train. So their most expedient, reliable solution is to add a second treatment train to the South Treatment Plant. That South Treatment Plant alone, with that second treatment train, could actually serve the entire region, and then the North Treatment Plant could actually serve just on a seasonal basis when water flows in the river were high enough. So this project is to construct that second treatment train. Benefits are, of course, system resiliency at the South Plant, increased overall efficiency operations, and reduced costs in maintenance and staffing at the North Plant when it doesn't need to be in operation. This project was reviewed by the steering committee on March 12th and recommended for approval, so we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, any questions for Mr. Volz? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and have this forwarded on, and then if you can just give us a brief update on the Kansas Infrastructure Hub and the Build Kansas Fund update.
Sure. Real quick, we do actually have our Infrastructure Summit coming up April 23rd in Lindsborg. We'll have a variety of topics covered, including available grant programs, both federal and state programs, funding strategies. We'll get some national perspectives as well. If anyone wants to attend, they can sign up on our website at ks.gov. The new grant assistance program went live last month, and of course the purpose of this program is to reimburse local agencies for costs associated with professional grant application writing and grant administration services. So that is open for applications right now. And then we have a new webinar series, which we started in January. We do these on the first Wednesday of every month. The next one is April 2nd. We cover a variety of topics related to grants and grant funding programs. And if you want to sign up for that, you can go to our website. And for some additional data on the Build Kansas Fund, we look to our dashboards, which again are on our website. This dashboard shows the distribution of awarded projects and projects that are awaiting award throughout the state of Kansas. You see that Northwest Kansas is a little bit thin on projects, and we did make a special trip out there. We're trying to drum up more support and more applications from Northwest Kansas. The chart on the lower right indicates where we are with our goal of getting $10 million of Build Kansas Fund distributed to each of the 8 economic development districts. With green being projects that have been awarded Build Kansas or been awarded federal grants and have committed Build Kansas funds, and those in yellow are the ones that are still awaiting federal award. So we're making progress on all of the 8 economic development districts. Obviously, Great Plains has already exceeded that amount. With respect to the number of projects of the Build Kansas Fund, since October of 2023, we've approved 72 projects, with 7 more being approved today. Of those 72, 38 have been awarded federal grants, and that's a 53% success rate, which is very good in the grant world. 15 are still awaiting federal announcement, and 19 that were not awarded grants that they applied for. And that money from those grants does get rolled back into the Build Kansas Fund for redistribution. What that means in terms of dollar value, we've already approved just over $105 million worth of total Build Kansas Fund applications in total across those 72 applications. 38 have been awarded. They've received, or they've committed $34.63 million of the Build Kansas Fund from those 38 projects. Again, 15 projects are still awaiting award, and that would commit $10 million of the Build Kansas Fund, and 19 projects were not awarded. And that money, that $60.54 million, gets rolled back into the Build Kansas Fund. From a total value perspective, the combination of Build Kansas Fund, the local funds that are contributed, and the federal funds is equal to over $138 million for projects here in the state of Kansas since the Build Kansas Fund was started in October of 2023. And then from a return on investment perspective, again, we've committed $34.63 million to the Build Kansas Fund. We have brought back in just over $75 million for the federal grants. And that is a 219% return on investment. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
So going back to your slide with the $105 million, does that include about the almost $35 million that we are sending on today?
Well, no, this includes only the projects up through before today. Yeah.
All right, so that doesn't include the additional $35 million that we just forwarded on. And then since we're not having the transfer in 2026 at this point of the $50 million, what is the total balance left in that fund?
$65 million.
So $65 million.
Yep, has not been committed.
$10 million that is still outstanding out of 15 applications. Is that what you said?
$10 million outstanding plus the $35 million we approved today. So that'll be another $45 million that is uncommitted at this point. We're essentially awaiting federal award at this point.
Okay. I just wanted to make note of the balance and the pending applications that we have, and if they get approved, that is the whole reason why that fund is set up at the State Treasurer's office. Any other questions for Mr. Volz? Representative Helgerson.
You want to comment at all on what's happening at the federal level and if we're going to be in jeopardy at all?
Mr. Volz?
Sure. So right now at the federal level, we have a lot of our grant programs have been paused. There are programs that are going to be rescinded and taken back. Some of the programs, are what I would call trigger programs for the current administration, and they would rather not fund these programs. I would say the majority of the grant programs, though, are in the status of being reviewed, the criteria is being rewritten, the rules are being rewritten, and I would expect them to get republished here at some point in the future. They were given 90 days to review those programs and then make recommendations for how to then push them back out again.
Any further questions? All right. See none, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being accommodating with the time since we went a little bit long on the House floor. All right, so now I would, if there's not any changes to the minutes, is there a motion? Representative Hoffman.
I move the adoption of the January 27th and the February 26th minutes.
All right, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Helgerson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Minutes passed, and we are adjourned until next month's meeting.